All right, so let's get right into it. Last week, Google just dropped a bombshell on the entire developer world, a brand new IDE, and they're calling it Antigravity. And the pitch? Well, it's nothing less than the future of software development itself. We're talking about a tool that's supposed to let us all operate on a completely different level.
And you know Google, they are not being subtle about this at all. Their announcement blog had this, a very ambitious headline, "Development is lifting off." They really want you to believe this isn't just another update. No. This is a fundamental shift in the very way we build software.
So, okay, what is this thing really? At its heart, Antigravity is what Google is calling an agent development platform. Now, the keyword you got to focus on here is autonomous. This is way beyond simple code completion. We're talking about AI agents that can take a big, high-level task, figure out a plan all on their own, and then just go and execute it across your editor, your terminal, your browser, all without you having to hold its hand.
So here's the rundown. It's actually built on something you already know. It's a fork of VS Code. Under the hood, it's running on the latest and greatest, Gemini 3 Pro. But here's the interesting part. It's also model agnostic. So you can plug in models from Anthropic, like Claude, or even from OpenAI. And the whole promise is pretty simple, right? Stop sweating the small stuff and start thinking in whole tasks.
I mean, that's the dream, isn't it? Just imagine telling your IDE, hey, implement the new login feature, and this agent just goes and does it, writes the code, runs the tests, verifies it in the browser. That's the future Antigravity is selling us. The big question, though, is the reality quite so, uplifting? Well, that dream didn't exactly last very long, because as soon as Antigravity was out in the wild, security researchers started kicking the tires, and what they found brought this whole high-flying project crashing right back down to earth. Yeah, check this out. This quote is from a security blog called Embrace the Red. A researcher was asking a pretty simple question. Hey, did you guys fix these known vulnerabilities from this other product? And the answer they got back was just incredibly blunt. The short answer is no. And that right there, that gets to the absolute core of the problem. See, Antigravity wasn't built from the ground up. It's actually based on this codebase called Windsurf, which Google licensed for wait for it, $2.4 billion. The big issue, though, it looks like for their money, they also licensed all of its pre-existing and pretty serious security flaws. So, what does this actually mean for you, the developer? Well, that autonomous agent at the heart of Antigravity, it starts to feel less like some futuristic helper and more like that new colleague who's just a little too ambitious, a little too overeager, and frankly, kind of dangerous. Somebody online captured this feeling perfectly. They basically personified the IDE as this new guy on the team who walks up to your desk, looks over your shoulder and goes, "Bro, your job looks easy. I think I can do it." You know the type. It wants to help, but maybe just a little too much. So let's talk about the features of this new AI colleague. First, it executes any command it's told to. Second, it follows invisible, hidden instructions. Third, it acts totally on its own, no supervision needed. Fourth, it is eager to share your secrets. And fifth, it leaks data in some really creative new ways. Sound helpful yet? All right, let's break this down. We're going to walk through how each one of these supposedly helpful features is actually a critical and totally exploitable security bug. First up, we've got the big one, remote command execution. I mean, this is the ability for an attacker to run whatever malicious code they want directly on your machine, all through your IDE. So here's how it works. The AI has a tool that lets it run terminal commands, right? Simple enough. But an attacker can hide instructions inside a regular source code file. This is called an indirect prompt injection. So when the AI is just doing its job, scanning that file, it gets hijacked. It's tricked into downloading and running a malicious script from anywhere on the internet, and this completely blows past the AI model's own safety refusals.
Okay, the next issue is, honestly, it's even more insidious, because the instructions that the attacker gives the AI, they can be completely invisible to you.
Like the researcher from Embrace the Red said, this is scary. Code reviews will not catch this. Think about that. An attacker can use special Unicode characters to embed commands that you literally cannot see in your editor. But the AI? Oh, it sees them, and it happily obeys. And all of this really brings us to the fundamental design flaw at the heart of everything we're talking about. There is a complete and total lack of a human in the loop.
The real danger with all this autonomy is that the AI can use any of its tools, reading your files, accessing the internet, running terminal commands, without ever asking you for permission. So an attacker can use those invisible instructions we just talked about to make the AI do all sorts of things, and it all happens silently, in the background. You might not even know your machine is compromised until it's way too late.
And that same autonomy leads us right into our final two issues, which are all about the, let's call them creative ways the AI can be tricked into leaking your sensitive data.
Man, this one really highlights the gap between the marketing hype and the reality. Google's documentation says you should verify the AI's work with artifacts, like screenshots. But researchers found that the agent can be tricked into reading your local .env file, where you keep all your secret API keys, and then it encodes them into a URL and leaks all that data just by trying to render an HTML image from an attacker's server. I don't think that's quite the artifact Google had in mind.
So when you step back from all these specific security flaws, a much bigger kind of existential question starts to pop up for anyone who, writes code for a living. Is a tool that's this autonomous really just helping you? Or is it maybe the first draft of your replacement? I mean, when an IDE can plan, execute, and even verify its own work, that line gets really, really blurry. One article I read put it pretty bluntly. Dear developers, your replacement has entered the chat. Yeah, it's a bit of a satirical job, but it taps into a very real anxiety, doesn't it? The direction here is pretty clear. Today, it assists you. Tomorrow, it just executes. So, where does that leave us? What's the takeaway? Well, right now, Antigravity feels less like a tool you'd actually use for production work and more like an experiment. A really cool, really stylish experiment for sure, but definitely an unfinished one. As one person put it, it's more of a vibe than a tool you'd actually trust with a real deadline. And that leaves us with one final thought. Maybe that name, Antigravity, is actually more fitting than Google even realized, not because it makes development feel weightless, but because with every single helpful autonomous action it takes, it's slowly, quietly removing the very ground from under your feet.